nobody did more to further the comparisons between Wayne Gretzky and Sidney Crosby than the Great One when he predicted the teenager would eventually break his many records. In his first 2 years in the NHL, Crosby lived up to every expectation, all while serving as the most recognizable ambassador the game's seen since Gretzky. But while the Gretzky comparisons have been evident, his play, personality, and leadership traits are reminiscent of his hockey idol, Steve Yzerman.
The first thing that struck you about Steve Yzerman was that he was just such a classy guy. He was truly one of the best leaders in the history of the National Hockey League.
To me, what separates Steve from everybody else was his mental toughness, his determination, his competitiveness, his passion.
One of the greatest captains in the history of all sports.
You knew that when you were facing Stevie Y that it was going to be a challenge, that he was determined, that he was going to make things happen out on the ice.
Like the steely-eyed Yzerman did throughout his career, Crosby plays with the same burning desire.
For Sidney Crosby, it was something that was very distinguishable at the very outset of coming to Pittsburgh. He just has this inner-driven self, probably at as high a level as I've ever seen in any young player ever that I've been around in all the years in professional hockey, to want to succeed.
Owning the same infectious passion that Yzerman possessed, Crosby was bestowed with one of the great honors in sports.
Sidney Crosby and Steve Yzerman became captains of their team at a very young age because they possessed something very, very special, and that is the understanding of their roles to their teams.
Talking to guys that played with Steve Yzerman, he didn't say much, but when he spoke, people listened, and I think that's the same thing with Sidney.
The captain of the team, his number one thing is what is best for the team in all situations. That's helping out a teammate. In some cases, it's taking a lesser role. In some cases, it's taking a greater role.
But actions speak louder than words. And in his first 2 seasons, Sidney Crosby's been a man of action.
Everybody talked like, you know, this is going to be the next guy and how good he is. And I'm like, you know, he can't be that good. He's just another hockey player. But I'll tell you one thing, he's in the top 2 best players I ever played against.
He's not only fun to watch, he's a blast to play against.
Down the wing to Crosby in front, he scores! Absolutely off the charts!
And just the sheer power in his stride and his ability to do things on his skates and maintain his balance.
It's just incredible the way he is dancing on his skates right now. He's got all his body moving in precision, and it's just like a finely tuned watch.
What shocks me most is, you know, how young he is and how good he is already. And that's scary to think because he's only going to get better.
I saw Bobby Orr change the game. I saw Wayne Gretzky change it. People, you know, kind of copy their styles. Paul Coffey, the way he could rush the puck. And Mario became the big, huge forward with the great skill. Sid is kind of a combination of everybody.
Before emerging as a shutdown defensive presence, Yzerman, like Crosby, was one of the NHL's most lethal scorers.
In his early years, one of the great goal scorers of the game, one of the great assist men of the game and point getters.
Into the Chicago zone, Yzerman winds up, drives the shot, and scores! Down the middle, Yzerman shot! Yzerman still controls, spins away. He's in. Oh, he's coming right in along. Big shot!
I remember a lot of the overtime goals, the one against St. Louis. It's a goal that I always remember.
Yzerman moving, blue line chance. Score! Steve Yzerman! Detroit wins!
I think when everyone looks at players, you know, they look at their skill and their speed. But with him, it seemed like he did everything else on top of that, whether it was face-offs or blocking shots.
I really admire that. He's a young guy who's learned that I want to be the best all-around player and not just the best scorer.
Crosby's got a little of everything in his game. Sid really seems determined right now.
Just as Yzerman was synonymous with Detroit, Crosby's style is symbolic of the Steel City.
It's funny how some athletes are just right for the cities they end up in. And I think Sid's right for Pittsburgh, just as Yzerman was right for Detroit. Those are two working-class towns. They've supported hockey a long time through a lot of lean years. I mean, before Yzerman, came along, Detroit was in pretty much of a drought in terms of playoffs and championships.
The Detroit Red Wings win the Stanley Cup. The cup is back in Hockey Town.
Crosby, the same thing. Penguins, bankruptcy looming, all kinds of problems. They might leave the city. Crosby comes in and revitalizes a team.
Stevie was captain of the Red Wings and led that team for 21 or so years, and Sidney Crosby is doing that right now. He's the modern day Stevie Yzerman.
Protects and sails it ahead, and here's Crosby on a breakaway. The game on his stick. Score! Sidney Crosby in overtime.
As far as being a part of the foundation of what Pittsburgh is all about, Sidney Crosby. You would love to say, man, can we have him for 20 years, and how many chances will we have to win a Stanley Cup with number 87 in the lineup?